I didn't mean to run. Not at first. People like me weren't supposed to make choices. We were supposed to accept the fate we were born into. Wolves are claimed, ranked, sorted, and bound before they ever understand what freedom feels like. But the night I felt the bond snap tight around my throat, like an invisible collar pulling me toward the one who wanted to claim me, I ran. I didn't take clothes, I didn't take food. I didn't even take the small silver locket my mother left behind. I took only breath and fear. The forest swallowed me whole. By the third night, my lungs burned from the cold, my feet numb from thorn and mud. I didn't dare shift. The moment I did, he would sense me again, my so-called fated mate, a man whose cruelty was whispered about even in the darkest corners of our pack's territory. If he found me, I knew exactly what would happen. Being claimed by him didn't mean protection or partnership. It meant possession. So I kept running until the moon thinned into a silver sliver, until the trees thickened and the path turned from familiar to wild, until the last boundary line of the pack was far behind me. Only then did I see the cabin. It leaned against the forest like it had grown from the earth itself. Broken roof, splintered walls, windows clouded by dust. Abandoned. Forgotten. Perfect. I forced the door open with my shoulder. The smell of old pine and damp leaves filled my lungs as I slid inside. For the first time in days, I exhaled. The darkness didn't scare me. The silence didn't scare me. What scared me was the moment my heart finally slowed enough for the truth to surface. He will come. He always comes. I found a blanket in a collapsed trunk, shook out the spiders, and curled into a corner. My breath fogged the air. My muscles trembled from exhaustion. I told myself that I would sleep for only a minute. I slept for 12 hours. When I woke, it was to the sound of footsteps. Not soft, not searching, certain. I froze, every nerve in my body throbbing. The footsteps approached the cabin with the unhurried confidence of someone who had already decided what belonged to him. My first thought, he found me. My second thought, no, these steps are different. My pulse hammered as a hand wrapped around the doorknob. I reached instinctively for the rusted fire poker beside the old fireplace, gripping it with trembling hands. The door creaked open. A tall figure filled the doorway, broad shoulders, dark coat dusted by snow, eyes like cold stormlight. His presence sucked the air out of the room. The atmosphere shifted so sharply, my skin prickled. This wasn't my pack's territory. This wasn't even claimed land. So who? The stranger stepped fully inside. The weight of his gaze hit me like a blow. Not hungry, not curious, not cruel. Knowing. "I've been looking for you," he said. His voice was low, deep enough to settle in my bones. Every instinct in me screamed to run, but my body remained locked in place as if the floorboards had swallowed my feet. "You're cold," he added, "and exhausted. Put the weapon down before you hurt yourself." I tightened my grip on the poker. He raised an eyebrow, slowly, unimpressed. Not a threat, yet. "I don't know who you are," I managed, my voice hoarse. "You have no right to be here." A faint sound, almost like amusement, escaped him. "No right?" he repeated softly. "This entire region is my territory." A chill sliced through me. Territory meant alpha, but not one I recognized. Not from any neighboring pack. Still, something about him wasn't wrong. It was worse. It felt inevitable. "Who are you?" I whispered. He stepped closer, and even the shadows seemed to move aside for him. "Callum," he said, "Alpha King of the Northern Dominion." My breath snagged. I'd heard of him. Everyone had. A ruler with no pack boundaries, no council oversight, no equal. A wolf who rose to power without mercy and held it without apology. A man feared enough that even distant territories lowered their eyes at the mention of him. "I don't belong to you," I said quickly, the words tasting like broken glass. His expression didn't change. "And yet," he murmured, "you crossed into my land." "It was an accident." "No," he said, "it was fate." Something flickered in his eyes, something ancient, unsettlingly certain, as if he knew far more about me than I did. I stepped back, heart slamming against my ribs. "I'm not looking to be part of a pack." "Good," he said. "I'm not in need of new wolves." That should have eased me. It didn't, because his attention wasn't on my wolf. It was on me. "You smell of fear," he said quietly, "and of a bond you're trying to break." My chest tightened. He could sense it. The thread, the mark I ran from. He tilted his head slightly. "Who is he?" "No one." "That's a lie." I swallowed, throat raw, hands shaking around the poker. He watched me like he was reading every tremor, every flicker of emotion across my face. "You're hiding," he said, "from someone who thinks he owns you." My breath stuttered. He took another step toward me. "You won't survive on your own," he continued softly. "Not out here, not hunted. You need protection." "I don't want yours." A flicker of something, annoyance, dark amusement, crossed his features. "You misunderstand," he said. "This isn't an offer." My heartbeat thundered. "Why would the Alpha King care about someone like me?" I whispered. Between us. Heavy, electric. Then, his eyes shifted, just slightly, a flash of molten gold beneath the storm grey. My wolf froze, not in fear, in recognition. Callum exhaled, slow and deliberate. "Because," he said quietly, "you are not meant to be claimed by the one who hunts you." He stepped so close I could feel the heat radiating off him, his voice dropping to a low, dark promise. "You were meant to be claimed by me." The world tilted. My breath vanished. The invisible bond I had been running from tightened, then snapped so violently it felt like my soul was being pulled in a new direction. I stumbled, gripping the wall to stay upright. Callum didn't touch me. He didn't have to. The truth settled around us like falling ash. I hadn't escaped a bond. I had run straight into another, one stronger, older, unbreakable. "Get some rest," he said, turning toward the door. "You're safe here, for tonight." He stepped out, closing the door behind him with quiet finality. Only then did I allow myself to breathe again. Only then did I allow myself to understand. I hadn't just traded one captor for another. I had just caught the attention of the Alpha King. And kings don't let go of what finds them. Not ever. I didn't sleep that night. Even after the Alpha King left the cabin, the air stayed charged, like the room still held the echo of him. His scent lingered faintly, cold pine, storm-soaked earth, something powerful beneath it that made my wolf pace restlessly inside my chest. I kept my back pressed to the wall until the sky outside bled from pitch black to a bruised morning grey. My mind circled the same questions endlessly. Why me? Why now? Why him? And beneath those questions lurked another, one I didn't dare let myself think too loudly. Why did my wolf react to him like that? I didn't want another bond. I didn't want to belong to anyone. I just wanted to breathe without chains around my throat. By dawn, I'd made a decision. I needed to leave before he came back. Even if it meant freezing. Even if it meant getting caught by the one I originally ran from. Staying here, under the gaze of a man who claimed to rule half the northern wilds, felt like stepping from one trap into another. I pushed to my feet, wincing at the stiffness in my muscles. The fire poker lay on the floor where I'd dropped it. Useless against someone like him. I cracked open the cabin door and stepped outside. The air slapped me with biting cold. Snow covered the ground in a thin, glittering sheet. The forest stretched out silent and endless. No tracks, no scent trails, nothing to tell me where I was or how far his territory extended. I took a shaky step forward. Leaving already? The deep voice behind me froze me in place. I turned slowly. Callum stood at the edge of the clearing, one hand resting casually against a tree. His dark coat blended with the shadows, snow dusting his shoulders like he'd been standing there for a while, watching me, waiting for me to try exactly this. His eyes locked onto mine, unblinking. I wasn't going far, I lied. He stepped forward, and the ground seemed to shift with him. There was something about the way he moved, silent, controlled, coiled with the kind of power that didn't need to be shown to be understood. "Don't insult both of us," he said calmly. "You planned to run." My throat tightened. "Can you blame me?" "No," he said, "but you should consider the consequences. For wanting to be free, for walking blindly into danger you cannot defend yourself from." His tone wasn't harsh. It wasn't mocking. It was factual. Like he was stating something that annoyed him simply by existing. I folded my arms over my chest. I survived on my own before. "You survived with a pack's territory, protecting your borders," he corrected. "Here, everything hunts, including the one hunting you." A tremor ran through me. As if sensing it, his eyes softened. Barely, but enough for me to notice. "You're not safe out here," he said quietly. "Not alone." I swallowed. "You think I'm safe with you?" "I know you are." There was no arrogance in his voice, no boast, just certainty, the kind that came from being obeyed, feared, followed. I tore my gaze away. "You don't even know who I am." "Wrong." His voice deepened slightly. "I know exactly who you are." I froze. A cold shock rippled down my spine. Slowly, he closed the remaining distance until he stood an arm's length away, not touching, but close enough that the air around me grew warmer. "You are a wolf who has been hunted her whole life?" he murmured. "A wolf whose spirit was caged long before anyone tried to claim her." My breath hitched. "You hide your strength because the wrong wolves taught you to fear it. You run not because you're weak, but because you learned that survival sometimes means disappearing." His gaze swept my face, unreadable but intense. "And yet," he added softly, "you keep surviving." I didn't speak. Couldn't speak. His words felt like hands reaching straight through my ribs, into the parts of me I never let anyone see. "How do you know that?" I whispered. A slow exhale left him, a sound like he didn't expect the truth to matter this much. "Because," he said, "I felt your presence the moment you stepped into my land. Before I ever saw you, before I heard your voice, before your scent reached me." My pulse stumbled. "That's not possible." "Isn't it?" His eyes flickered gold again, brief but unmistakable. My wolf responded instantly, rushing to the surface with a fierce, bewildering pull. I gripped the doorframe to stay upright. He watched me with unnerving focus. "Your bond broke the moment I touched my territory, because it was never meant to be yours." I shook my head. "That doesn't make sense." "It will," he said, "soon." A gust of icy wind swept between us. I shivered violently. Without hesitation, he shrugged off his coat and draped it around my shoulders. The warmth of it hit me like a shock. It smelled like him. Storm, pine, danger. Something wild enough to make my heartbeat stumble. "I don't need," I began, trying to remove it. "Keep it," he said, voice firm. Your stubbornness is impressive, but I prefer you conscious. I glared at him through the coat's collar. A faint smile, barely there, touched his lips. Come, he said, turning away. The cabin isn't enough. Snow will thicken by nightfall, and something crossed into the region last night. My stomach dropped. Something? Not your hunter, he said. Something worse. That didn't reassure me. He paused a few steps away, glancing back when I didn't move. You can walk beside me, he said, or I can carry you. Either way, you're not staying here. Heat rushed to my cheeks. I can walk. I followed, but only because staying behind suddenly felt far more dangerous. As we moved through the woods, silence wrapped around us. Not uncomfortable, just heavy with things unsaid. The snow crunched softly beneath our feet, branches creaking overhead. After a few minutes, I spoke quietly. You never answered me. Why do you care what happens to me? He didn't stop walking, but his voice shifted, lower, darker, stripped of its earlier restraint. Because the moment you entered my land, he said, my wolf recognized you. My breath caught. He continued, gaze fixed ahead, and now that he has, nothing in existence will take you from my protection. Not your past, not your hunter, not fate itself. My heart beat violently against my ribs. Before I could respond, before I could breathe, a distant howl rolled through the forest. Low, predatory, wrong. Callum stopped instantly, every muscle going rigid. I felt it too, an icy dread sliding down my spine. That's not from my pack, he said quietly. He turned to me, eyes blazing gold. Stay close. Another howl echoed, closer this time. The forest shifted, the air tightened, and I realized with cold horror that whatever hunted me had finally found my trail. Or worse, someone else had. Callum stepped in front of me, voice a low growl vibrating through the trees. He's here. The howl sliced through the forest like a blade, low, guttural, carrying a familiarity that made my blood freeze. I'd heard that sound before, too many times, too close. Callum angled his body in front of mine, his shoulders tense, his gaze fixed on the direction of the noise. The air around him thickened, rippling with the power he kept leashed beneath the surface. Stay behind me, he murmured. My fingers tightened around the coat he'd given me. It's him, isn't it? A muscle ticked in Callum's jaw. Yes. My chest constricted. The wolf I'd run from, my original bond, had always been relentless, but there was something unnatural in that howl, something feral, like he had lost the last pieces of the humanity he once pretended to have. Branches snapped somewhere deeper in the forest. Callum shifted slightly, listening. He's tracking you by scent. I swallowed hard. Can you stop him? He gave a short exhale that wasn't quite a laugh. I could stop armies. Before I could answer, he wrapped his hand around my wrist. Not hard, not possessive, but grounding. Warm, steady, protective. You're trembling, he said quietly. I'm not afraid of you, I whispered. I know. The way he said it, certain, sent a strange ache through my chest. Another howl, closer this time, too close. Callum released my wrist and stepped forward, his entire posture shifting. The forest seemed to bow around him, recognizing the presence of a predator greater than any that walked these woods. But before he could move farther, something unexpected happened. My wolf surged inside me, violently, desperately, almost knocking the breath from my lungs. She didn't want to run. She didn't want to hide. She wanted to fight. Callum turned sharply. What is it? My breath hitched. She's pushing forward. His eyes narrowed. Let her. I shook my head. If I shift, he'll feel it. He'll know exactly where I am. He already does. Callum said, "but you're not the same wolf who ran from him." The forest fell silent for a heartbeat. Then, the sound of something huge crashing through the underbrush. Callum's eyes darkened with lethal purpose. "Stay back." He stepped away from me, and for the first time, I saw a glimpse of what made him Alpha King. His posture straightened, his presence expanding until the entire clearing felt too small to contain him. Power poured from him in slow, deliberate waves, controlled but immense, ancient as the forest around us. My breath caught. My wolf pressed against my skin, not in fear but in awe. Then he turned slightly toward me, his voice low. "If anything happens, you run toward the ridge. Follow the river until—" "I'm not leaving you," I said before he could finish. The words slipped out faster than I could stop them. He stared at me for a long moment, storm-grey eyes, unreadable. Then, to my shock, something softened in his expression. "You don't have to," he said. Before I could answer, a massive shadow burst into the clearing, snarling. My former hunter. His wolf form towered over any normal shifter, muscles bulging, fur matted with rage, eyes feral. The bond I'd carried for years pulsed weakly in my chest like a dying ember. His gaze locked onto me. Mine. Not anymore. He lunged. Callum moved faster. The two wolves collided with a force that shook snow from the branches above. Growls tore through the air, deep, violent, echoing off the frozen trees. The fight wasn't just physical, it was primal. My hunter fought with desperation. Callum fought with purpose, and purpose is always stronger. Still, the enemy was relentless. He slammed Callum into a tree, snapping the trunk behind him. My heart lurched. "Callum!" I cried out before I could stop myself. His wolf twisted, powerful and precise, breaking free of the hold and forcing the attacker back several feet. Snow sprayed in every direction. Teeth clashed, claws raked. Blood hit the ground in droplets that steamed in the cold. Time blurred. I couldn't watch helplessly. My wolf clawed from within, demanding to fight, to protect the bond she had chosen. So I stepped forward. The moment my foot hit the snow, both wolves froze. Callum's head snapped toward me, eyes blazing gold. My hunter's gaze locked onto me too, but his wasn't gold. It was empty. A growl ripped from his throat as he lunged again, this time aiming for me. My heart stopped. Enough. The word wasn't shouted. It didn't need to be. It rolled across the clearing like thunder. Callum's voice in human tone, but carrying power that didn't belong to this world. His wolf launched forward with impossible speed, intercepting the attack. In one brutal movement, he pinned the other wolf to the ground, massive claws pressed to his throat. But Callum didn't finish him. Instead, he looked at me. He murmured. I stared at the creature that had haunted me for years, the wolf who believed he owned me, whose bond had suffocated me, whose presence had twisted my wolf into silence. The old fear tried to rise. But something else rose stronger. I took a slow breath. No. Callum's muscles tightened. You want him alive? I want him gone, I said steadily. I want the bond severed. I want him to know I'm not his anymore. Not now, not ever. Callum's gaze sharpened. Not at the enemy beneath him, but at me. You choose freedom, he asked. I met his eyes. No? His breath stilled. I choose myself, I said, for the first time. A long moment passed. Then Callum nodded once, slow, deliberate. He pressed his paw to the enemy's throat, releasing a surge of alpha power so intense the air vibrated. The ground cracked beneath them. The severed bond inside my chest disintegrated completely. burning, then gone. The hunter's wolf whimpered, shrinking back. He wasn't my threat anymore. He wasn't anything anymore. With a final growl, he fled, limping, defeated, erased from my life in the most permanent way possible. Silence settled over the forest. Snow drifted softly around us. Callum shifted back into his human form, breathing hard, blood streaking his arms, his eyes still bright with the remnants of battle. He walked toward me slowly, like I was something fragile or sacred. "You're trembling," he said again, but this time my voice didn't shake. "I'm relieved." His gaze traced my face, the exhaustion, the defiance, the raw freedom settling into my bones. "You're safe now," he said. "For how long?" I whispered. His steps closed the last distance between us. He didn't touch me. He didn't need to. His presence alone warmed the cold out of my lungs. "For as long as you choose to stay," he said. My breath caught. "And if I stay?" I asked softly. A slow exhale left him, one that seemed to loosen something in his chest. "Then," he said, voice deepening, "I will protect you, teach you, stand with you, and never take anything from you that you do not freely give." My heart thudded. The bond wasn't a chain, it was a choice. My choice. The forest around us fell quiet, waiting. I stepped closer, just an inch, but enough. His eyes softened. "Is that your answer?" "Yes," I whispered. The moment the word left my lips, the world seemed to shift, not with force, but with rightness. Callum lowered his head slightly, a subtle gesture of acceptance, of equality. Not possession, recognition. "You found the cabin to hide," he murmured, "but you found my land to live." The last of the cold fear inside me melted, and for the first time since the night I ran, I felt safe and seen and free all at once.